Welcome to Shawn and Carter have a podcast. My name is Shawn.
And I'm Carter.
And we're gonna get right back into it because we didn't just lose most of a podcast that we had already recorded and had finished.
That didn't happen.
There's no way I would not have planned for redundancies for backups of recording temporary files because Audacity could possibly lose them.
No, we would never do that, particularly after I had scolded those game developers for not having backups that one time a long time ago.
And we definitely didn't work through every possible solution and try and recover said files and watch it fail miserably.
No, that doesn't sound like us.
I'm just getting that out of there so that the commenters don't be like, well, you could have Nope. We tried. We tried
everything. We did. A lot of noodles were used. That's my code for brain power, and no, we got nothing.
So we're using the remaining noodle power that we have to poop out this podcast.
Oh my goodness! I really hope this isn't the audio that that ever gets used for any animated version of this podcast, because that's a nasty image. We will not be pooping out this podcast. We will end strong.
Oh yeah, the best part is that we had not yet gotten to our fun topic, so mostly this is going to be our fun topic.
Right, you all just missed a whole bunch of corporate blah blah antitrust Google.
But don't worry, we'll hit you with it later when we feel like refreshing ourselves and doing it again.
Exactly, but since I was wronged on it by technology, I will probably just be angrier and talk about it more and in more detail. And
the machines are trying to silence us, Carter.
They are. They really are. And Michael Cera. You know what? You mentioned Michael Cera in the podcast. That wasn't.
I brought it up, and now I cursed us.
Oh, and now I brought it up. Well, hopefully nothing bad happens this time. So.
Daisy.
I'll have to remember that when we talk about Iron Man. I have something to say about that.
Okay.
So, yeah, all that. And moving on. We have a random question from Ron. We talked about it, but we're gonna talk about it again because it's an interesting question.
It was too fun to pass up, so we want to make sure we hit it.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll be even more thoughtful because we've already had like a starter conversation. But,
yeah.
So Ron wanted to know what our what superpower we'd want to have, and that made me think of this episode of This American Life I heard once when I used to work in a library and listen to podcasts all the time. If you've never done that before, I would highly recommend it. It is thoroughly good.
Work in a library or listen to podcasts all the time?
The combination, the intersection of that is like amazing. Oh, it was like the best year of my life. But there was an episode, I don't know if it was the whole topic of the episode or if they just mentioned it, but there's this website online called flightinvisibility.com. I think flightinvisibility.com. It's asking people to choose whether they would have the power of flight or the power to be invisible, with a couple caveats, like you'll be the only person in the world who has this power. You have to choose just one of them. Some stuff about
flight is capped at 1,000 miles an hour, which that's still going to take you a while.
Still going to take you a while. 1,000 miles.
If you want to go very far.
Yeah, if you wanted to go if I wanted to fly to California, that's like 3 hours flight time.
Right.
Anyway, maybe you can tell where we're going to land on this. So I've been thinking about this since I heard that podcast back in probably 2009, and Sean's been thinking about it for at least the past 59 minutes. We're gonna answer that. Ron actually answered on Twitter. He said that his was always flight, or his would be flight, and I said invisibility.
And I said invisibility.
Right, and I tried to. Sean was a little more pragmatic about it. I tried to sound a little noble, like, yeah.
I was trying to be a little more transparent. Hey
Oh,
now.
I think we have a potential title for this podcast. Um, so because not, we're also have been completely transparent in the epic failure that preceded this this current recording.
Well, if it's
I
not
said
clear, we're not experts at just about anything.
anything at all, nothing. We're experts at we'll get you details on what we're experts about at some later date. Um, yeah, I said like I would go to like meetings in the White House or like big big moments where decisions are happening or historic things are happening, so I could be like a fly on the wall.
And assassinate people.
Well, I mean, if the money was right, I don't even know. Um,
You could be the best journalist or the best assassin in the world.
exactly. I like hearing like that unvarnished truth, what's happening in a situation. It's like something you can't get from like a written account or even someone like telling you a story about something that happened. So um yes, but by the same token, the temptation of invisibility.
Right, with flight, how many different temptations are there?
I mean,
It's not even like Superman where you can transport people because it
right.
says think Superman's flight ability, but it does not say think his super strength ability.
Right. Right. You can just fly. Well, and
Plus, Superman can fly fast enough to turn around the rotation of the Earth, if I remember correctly. So, 1,000 miles an hour? No way.
yeah.
It's not worth it.
Right. Well, I mean, even like in a situation where you committed a crime, I think I would prefer invisibility to flight because it's like, yeah, you can fly away really quickly, or you can just turn invisible. No one can find you.
You can use your invisibility to get on a Concorde and escape.
Right. Exactly. Um, so yeah, I think all of the benefits are with invisibility, and the the way that what you choose is frequently summed up as villains choose invisibility, heroes choose flight. I'm fine being a villain.
Me too. Me too.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Star Wars: The Old Republic has been out for a little while, and it was something I think it broke down to 65% Sith so far.
Unsurprising. Unsurprising. I'm sure it's like 40%, you know, uh, big, attractive white Jedi or Sith, and then 45% busty Twi'lek girls, and 5% interesting things. Like,
Welcome to every MMORPG ever.
yeah, exactly. Um, I've watched a couple of people's YouTube videos of Old Republic. I have no desire to play that.
Well, you probably also never had any desire to play WoW, did you?
I have not. So
you have to be of a certain gamer. I would definitely agree with that.
yeah, yeah. I would much rather play like Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast.
You'd rather get engaged in a story.
Yeah, I thought this. I thought that like Jedi Outcast, the story. I mean, it was pretty good as far as a game story goes,
Yeah.
and get to watch it unfold, and you're in the game, and
Was
it's pretty
that
cool.
Kyle Katarn or was that a different character?
That was Kyle Katarn.
Okay.
The follow up was Jedi Academy.
Yeah, I think that the Kyle Katarn story was pretty well told in video games. It was as good as any of the the third party authors' books.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Oh, oh, of course. And then the way that they took like Dark Forces was just a Doom
Clone.
ripoff
Yeah.
clone. Yeah, I mean straight clone, same engine, and
Yep.
everything. Um, and I played it, obviously.
I have
Um,
it on Steam. It
I
was something like 74 cents and I was like, "Hell, yes."
I think I have it on Steam. I think I bought the Star Wars pack on Steam.
That's how I
Yeah,
got it.
yeah, it's like every game. But I had it on CD that I played on my grandpa's PC when I was like a kid. Uh, and I missed Dark Forces 2 when he was
Jedi
Jedi Knight.
Knight.
But
That
that
was
was a
where
great.
I picked it up.
Yeah, I played the first one. I missed the second one, but like I was I was a lapsed gamer. Like I stopped gaming when I was 12. 13. I got a PlayStation, and that was like my last console, and I was like, I don't really care for this anymore. And then I stopped PC gaming, and then I didn't play video games again until college.
I had a kind of similar thing, but it wasn't by choice.
Oh, sad.
It was all PC gaming, and then in college I moved into just about everything else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, so Hypercritical, John Syracuse's podcast with Dan Benjamin, they've been talking about gaming a lot lately, like the past 3 episodes. So much so that I actually bought a book, which I'm going to recommend to our audience because I think it's, and you like specifically, but everybody else. It's called Game Over. It's a history of Nintendo.
Okay.
It is a great read. I'm about halfway through it right now. It focuses a lot on Shigeru Miyamoto. Is it
right.
Miyamoto?
Yep, Miyamoto.
Who is basically like the Steve Jobs of Nintendo.
Yep, exactly.
And is a fascinating read. And
he basically created genres that we now just accept as completely commonplace.
Yeah. Oh,
like the way that George Romero invented the zombie genre of movies, and now everyone rips that off. Shigeru invented platforming, basically.
Yeah. I mean, he was the his story is really interesting. They had 3 different divisions of Nintendo. Actually, the history of Nintendo is fascinating.
It's over 100 years old.
Yeah, it started in 1887 or something, 1889, and they used to make playing cards.
Yep, they always been a gaming company, but all kinds of different games.
Right. They made Hanafuda cards. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but it's sort of like it's like what am I thinking of?
I don't know.
It's like a matching game.
Okay.
Like a I want to say Mojang, but that's not right. Mahjong.
Mahjong.
It's sort of like Mahjong, but you don't play it with that little pyramid or whatever. You like, whatever, doesn't matter. But listening to him, he's been talking a lot about gaming controllers and how he hates the PlayStation controller, the DualShock. And him just going through like the NES and the SNES and the Genesis, it was like all the way back to my childhood, and I'm like, yeah, oh, that was so amazing. And then he's talking about like PlayStation, Xbox, and the Wii, and I'm like, I've used all of those maybe once, and I feel really left out.
I put in a lot of time on the original Xbox and on the GameCube.
The GameCube is like, I would say my this turned into a gaming podcast.
Yeah, where did this come from?
Where did this come from? I don't even. Where did this come from? Now I'm interested.
Because of the book. You brought up the book.
Why did I bring up the book? I said that John Syracuse was talking about gaming lately. PC Dark Forces, but how do we talk about
Star
that?
Wars,
whatever.
And then I don't know.
I don't know. Well,
this is the podcast that we should be having. We should record all of the government and corporation stuff, then lose it.
So we can talk about the fun stuff,
and then talk about the fun video game stuff.
What I was trying to say before I had that meta explosion was the console that I think has my I'm most nostalgic about is the SNES, because that's the one I had when I was a kid, and I was like one of the first kids in my town to have one, so people came over and played with me, and it was cool. I loved the game. I loved the games on it. Star Fox is like one of my favorite games of all time. Super Mario World is amazing. But I think that the best console that I've ever played with, that I had the most fun with, was a GameCube.
Really?
I think so. I remember because the GameCube came out right after the PlayStation 2, I think?
Yeah.
And before the Xbox.
Yes.
And I remember just being blown away by how fun the games were. I'm not a big first-person shooter, and if I were, I would probably prefer to play it on a computer, not with those dongly analog sticks, which I find awkward to control.
Oh, man. I don't think I could imagine controlling Halo anyway, other than the Xbox controller.
Well, the Xbox controller is really unique. It's got, whatever. But I mean, like, I just, like, a first-person shooter, I'm just WASD and pointing and clicking seems easier to me to, like, wrap my head around. But like the GameCube, I just loved the games for the GameCube. And I just remember.
I'm assuming you're talking about the first party games.
Yes, the first party games.
Where all their strength was.
Yeah, I mean they're a lot like Apple. There are plenty of crappy Mac applications, but the first party applications that come on either iOS or on a Mac are always like the best. Like
they're custom tailored.
Yeah, well, and it's like they're showing you how to do it. It's like you want to make a Nintendo game, Mario 64, Ocarina of Time. Rip that off. These are amazing games.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Rogue Squadron on the GameCube. I got a lot of enjoyment out of that.
And back to Star Wars. There's a book that I've had recommended to me by several different people that I've never read, and if I end up reading the one that you did, I might read this, called Masters of Doom, about John Romero and John Carmack, the guys who created Doom and id Software.
Really?
Yeah. Sometime I'm gonna get around to reading that. It's not real long either. I just haven't gotten there.
Yeah, I'm searching on Amazon. Masters of Doom: How two guys created an empire and transformed pop culture. Has a Kindle edition, and I got paid yesterday, so I think I'm just gonna click the one-click button.
There you go.
All right, I'll be waiting for me after the podcast. Done. Welcome to this world of technology. I mean, Shawn, everything. I forget the line. Damn it! That would have been great. Technology helps everything. Whatever. Iron Man 2. Howard Stern.
Howard Stern? You're on a roll now.
Howard Stark. Oh boy, we need to move on.
So I would rather be invisible, basically.
So at the end of that, invisibility. Thank you for the random question, Ron. It really led to some random areas.
So, what else were we doing?
Iron Man.
Iron Man. My clones watched it last night. They loved it.
Oh yeah, I saw.
They loved it so much that Prime ran out of tweets, which I didn't even know was possible. He hit his hourly cap.
What happens when that happens?
It tells you you've been tweeting too much. Read here for some guidelines. And he didn't understand what they meant, so I had to read them. And it said that you have 2,500 tweets a day, and they are broken down into hourly amounts somehow.
I see.
I can't imagine sending 2,500 tweets in one day. I don't know if people do that.
That's probably like just baked into their API, and that's for like news wire services. Like, don't send more than tweets a day. Like, I don't think a human being could possibly tweet that much. Although, prove me wrong. I mean, 2,500 tweets a day. I mean,
they're gonna hit so many hourly caps while they're trying to get there. They're never gonna hit it.
Right. So,
well. Anyway, they made it almost through the whole movie before that happened.
All right. Well, yes. Let's talk about some Iron Mans for our new project.
The Shawn and Carter Avengers initiative.
Yes, the Avengers initiative. So, did you see either of these in the theater?
I saw both.
I saw neither. I didn't think I would like it.
I don't remember what convinced me. Like, I don't know how interested I was in the first one, but I think Robert Downey, I was really getting into Robert Downey around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, well, why not? He looks like he's kind of an a-hole in this, and that's always the way that I like him. So, so I went to see it, and it basically changed my mind about comic book movies after I saw Spider-Man. I was like, this is exactly what I would have expected.
Yeah, I went until Iron Man 2 came out, and then I was fun employed for a little while, and it was on demand, both of these, for like $4, and I had already watched all of 30 Rock, all of Arrested Development, all of my favorite movies, and I'm like, well, why not? I'll put this one on, and I enjoyed them thoroughly. So I became fans of them back in late 2010.
I think it's a good. The best thing about this Marvel like reawakening their film division is that they're kind of retconning all of their series and making them better for modern audiences.
Yeah. Um, my impression of I've actually read the first comics of Iron Man and Spider-Man, and they bear very little. In some ways, they bear very little resemblance to what products we have today, and that's probably makes sense because they were written decades ago.
Yeah, it's impressive that their legacy is so long, but I'm fine with them having to change every 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of um, the very broad themes are still there at the core of these franchises, but most everything else is.
8-Bit Dame brought up something on a vlog I made about watching these movies where she said, like, I think that these movies are... is it a rash of movies that is happening, or am I just imagining things? And I think superhero movies have kind of become our go-to fantasy genre these days. Like, it's other than a few science fiction rules being broken or some people having superpowers that you could just say are a fantasy element, I don't see what the real big difference between these are and like a Lord of the Rings franchise. People just have powers, and there are other beings from other worlds and sometimes aliens and
Right. Well, I mean, arguably, I mean that's true because the people who kind of ushered in the comic book uh, as a as a big mass media, that was their intention. Is coming out of the war, and they were looking for a new area to express these ideas of adventure and excitement and fantasy.
it's
And
a new mythology.
yeah. Um, I will say now that I find it impossibly difficult to comprehend any of these franchises as comic books because they there's like the Silver Age, the Golden Age, the modern, the whatever, and it's like I always feel like there would be so much I'd have to learn about and read before I felt like competent that I just am overwhelmed and don't do it.
Marvel will make, I'm speculating, they'll make some like giant app for tablet devices that allows you to purchase all of the comics and cross-reference them.
DC has an app.
Is it anything like that?
I don't know how far back it goes.
It's gonna happen because they
But
have to evolve or die.
yeah, the tablet is a perfect reading device for a comic, I would say.
Absolutely.
Other than the whole I like the touch and the feel or whatever, and I think that those people will eventually be in the minority, and I don't care if any of you want to
I hope that
totally
those people already are in the minority.
flame me on this because you all are wrong, and it's like that's the type of mentality that would have been like, oh, but horses and buggies are just they're so different from a car, and you're never going to get the experience of the leather and the smell of the horse and whatever.
I have not developed a
You know?
problem with reading a book from starting to read on my electronic devices. I still can read a book. I don't mind, but I don't care. It doesn't make a difference to me.
Yeah, I think that it is it's a valid point that that you can't get that tactile experience with the electronic book, and it's like, yep, sorry, we're abstracting away from that for something that's significantly better in many other ways.
Yes.
So sorry, folks. Likewise with comic books, you might not get the feel of the shiny. I haven't had a whole bunch of comic books, but that comic books have there's a distinctive feel, and they smell, and I don't mean they smell bad, but there's a smell to them, like the plastic and the glue or whatever. But how can you argue with the iPad 3 coming out in March if all the rumors are true? It's going to have this super high res display with more pixels than HD televisions. How can you argue?
More than the human eye can see.
More than the human eye can see. It's going to be this amazingly vivid, high quality imagery.
Don't you want to look at comic books on it?
I want that. Is it Marvel or is it DC who did the big restart? It's Marvel because Spider-Man got restarted. I know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that they're in their. It's got to be close to their 5th, 6th, maybe even 10th edition. So I guess I feel bad for not having tried to pick up a couple of those.
I don't think I do. I'm enjoying the movies too much.
Exactly, the movies are awesome. Iron Man, particularly. And like I have some sort of like observations of like this universe that they're building, and maybe you'll have some thoughts on it because you've seen Thor.
Yes, I've seen Thor.
Yeah,
which is directly linked to Iron Man 2.
Right.
They're
right.
actually, some of the events are going on at the same time.
Right. So, but yeah, I do have a lot of questions about where they're going with this. But anyway,
they're going to Avengers 2 is what they're going towards.
I saw that on Wikipedia.
yes, they are.
So yeah, but like Iron Man, the first one.
So they retconned. The very first thing they did was they made Iron Man's origin story in the like the current Middle Eastern conflict, the Afghanistan and Iraqi thing. He's in Afghanistan, right?
He's in Afghanistan, or like the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Right.
Whereas in the first comic that he was in, it was also a cave, but it was like the Soviet like it was in the 50s.
It was a Cold War conflict.
And I think that they've done a really good job, and it also speaks to our current historical moment in that Iron Man really spoke to the military-industrial complex of the 1950s, and then our new modern Iron Man speaks to our current fears and anxieties about military conflicts and also Iron Man 2 in some ways to our country's increasing use of drones for projecting power.
Yeah. In the first movie, one of the biggest professional conflicts he works through is that these Afghani terrorists have his devices, and they're using them against not only like probably military targets, but unarmed families and women and children and everything. And our country has wound up in that already a couple times.
Yeah, it's it's an issue. But anyway, here's we can save the answer to this question, but like I would like to know your opinion, whether you like or prefer Iron Man 1 to Iron Man 2. Yeah, you don't have to answer right now, but you can. Or we can just talk about Iron Man.
I think they both have their. I don't know. Okay. I think they both have their good things.
Okay. So I unfortunately was doing some work when I watched Iron Man 2, so I have no notes, but I do have some notes on Iron Man. And the very first one I have is a question that I got an answer to. Was this Robert Downey Jr.'s return from his celebrity purgatory? Yes, it was.
It was definitely his big return. He had done a couple other things.
He had done numerous small movies or small roles, and he was in Tropic Thunder around the same time as Iron Man, but he was the big star, and this was his big breakout blockbuster movie. And yes, he had been in just, the doldrums until Iron Man, and now he's big.
Oh yeah, he's huge.
He's huge.
And no one feels the need to make fun of him that much anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for Ricky Gervais occasionally.
Sure. I'm wondering if like 8 years from now we'll be having the same conversation about like Charlie Sheen.
According to him, he's not crazy anymore. I heard recently.
Oh well, I'm glad that he has self-diagnosed.
He's worked through it.
Yep, he has. So Tony Stark is clearly just like a really cool defense contractor version of Steve Jobs, right?
Obviously.
I love it.
The Zen of Tony Stark.
The Zen of Tony Stark. I love in both of these movies like the Americana that is wrapped up in it, like all of the celebrities that they have participating in the movies, all of the like he's on the cover of Time and Rolling Stone, and I just love all those little pieces.
I like whenever they throw all the real life reporters and stuff in there. Amanpour was in one of them.
Bill O'Reilly was in the second one. Yeah, I love that stuff, and so I don't know what the joke is, but either way, it's funny. In both of these movies, they have Stan Lee
Yeah, he shows up in all of them.
He's in all of them. But in these two movies, um, Tony, both times like at like big celebrity or like red carpet events, and he always says, "Hey, Larry King, how you doing?" And Stanley looks at him like, "What?"
In the first one, he thought he was Hugh Hefner.
Oh, Hugh Hefner, that's right.
And the second one, it was Larry King.
Right, Larry King. So I don't know if it's if it's supposed to be Stan Lee and Tony Stark just doesn't know who he is. He thinks he's Hugh Hefner. He thinks he's Larry, or if Stan Lee is supposed to be playing Hugh Hefner and Larry King. Either way, it's funny.
Now that you say it, I'm not sure either.
Right. I kind of like the idea of like Tony Stark being like, "Oh yeah, old guy with white hair, yeah, Larry King or whatever." But I also like the idea of him playing Hugh Hefner. That's tickles me.
He's played himself in at least one film, and it was directed by Kevin Smith, and that film was Mallrats.
Oh boy. Well, let's not talk about that. So I liked the opening a lot. I liked the Humvee attack, and then going back and catching us back up. I thought that there was a that sort of in the middle of things way of starting it was great.
Yeah, that's a great device for just drawing you right in.
Yeah, and Tony and we get like right at the beginning to see just like Tony Stark is just so cool. Just so cool, like drinking a scotch in a Humvee, and all the soldiers are just like,
they're gaga over him, and not only is he so cool, but he will oblige them when he's like, "Can I get a picture?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's get a picture, man. Of course."
The guy holds his hand up, and Tony is like, "You're kidding me with the hand holding thing, right?" and then the kid asks him like, "Is it cool if I take a picture with you?" And Tony goes, "Of course, yes, it's very cool."
It's very cool. He's like, "I hope I see this on your Facebook page later."
Exactly. So I mean, he is just impossibly cool and smug and sure of himself, and
textbook narcissism, as diagnosed later.
Textbook narcissist, and then we get the Humvee attack, which just like totally snaps you out of that, and then all of those soldiers get killed, which I was,
Yeah, I know. It hits you right up front.
Because it's like you're buddies with them, and then you get that Tony Stark gets blown up by one of his own rockets. So, and then I feel like once we get back to the cave and Tony building the .9 version of the suit,
the beta version.
The beta version. Actually, that was probably the alpha version, right? And then the beta one was the silver one, and then the 1.0 was the red and gold.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I don't know what the 1.1 is. So
it's in the second movie he has a different suit.
That's right. That's true. So I thought at times I felt like it was going on a little too long, like the whole process of him making the suit and talking with what's his assistant's name?
I
don't know.
Igor.
Igor. It's pronounced Igor.
It's not Igor. It's Jensen.
Jensen. Yes, Jensen. I thought that his time with Jensen and then dealing with the presumably Afghani terrorist cell, like it was a little long. It took a little too much time. I don't know.
I think they were trying to misdirect you for a while. They wanted you to think that this is as bad as the bad guy was going to get.
Sure.
Because they didn't want you to see what was actually going on for a while.
Right. And I know I've seen this movie a bunch of times before, but I think it's kind of obvious who the bad guy is.
I think it is too.
I think it's pretty obvious. So, I know that in this movie it basically worked, but they couldn't resist it, could they? Doing a like science montage when they're making the suit. They just couldn't. They're like, montage time. Got to do it.
Got to do some
the hammering and
some blueprints
and hammers and the hot thing in the cup and whatever. It's like
it was an important moment, him creating palladium down on that scale or whatever.
Right, exactly. Palladium is not real, right?
Not as far as I know.
Okay, palladium's not real. So he busts out of the cave and has a total awesome revenge thing. But Jensen totally sacrifices himself. And I knew that it happens, but I forgot. And I immediately in my notes I was like, oh, this is completely not credible. Like I don't buy this at all. And then he has that moment with Tony at the end, oh, use this.
He says, don't waste it.
Don't waste it. And I immediately wrote like, oh, I take back the whole thing. This is the reason. This is Tony Stark's reason to be.
Yep.
So
he needed to have a transformative moment in that cave.
Yeah. So overall, I thought that first 40 minutes was great introduction to Tony Stark, and then he comes back home and like shuts down the thing, and then we're off.
After he gets a cheeseburger.
After he gets a cheeseburger, and after they're
such an American, he comes home and he's like, we need to go to Burger King, and then I can have my press conference.
Yeah, burger first. I don't know if I have the order out of this, but when he's on the plane with what's his name?
Who?
The Colonel? Colonel Rhodes. When they're on, I forget if this is when they're flying home from. I think this is when they're flying home from Afghanistan. He gets him drunk, and the flight attendants like are actually strippers.
Yes.
And of course, Tony Stark's plane has a stripper pole in it.
Of course
it does. I just love that. And Rhodes is like refuses the sake, and then after the like cutaway, like he's drinking it right out of the bottle
and lamenting his existence in some way. Nobody listens to me, man.
So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So Tony gets back home and he shuts everything down, and he wants to do arc reactors. That's his new thing. It's plastics for Tony Stark.
Right.
He wants to do.
It's the new black.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be his iPad. It's going to be his his culminating moment.
Because it hasn't had a breakthrough in something like 40 years or more.
Right.
And he's already made a breakthrough.
Right.
In a cave with no resources.
Yeah. So you can imagine what sorts of breakthroughs he'll make in his basement of his house. But I just he doesn't use a lab.
I love his workshop. I love his shop.
It's really cool. So there's one person who's a little concerned about this, and that would be the I guess he's the president of Stark Enterprises or the chairman. I don't know. Obadiah.
Yes.
Obi. He wants to make sure that Tony's carrying on his father's work. Suspicious. That's all I have to say.
In the wiki for Howard Stark, Tony's father, it doesn't say the circumstances, but it says that at least once Howard stopped Obadiah from taking over the company.
Yeah, he's presented as like in the whole opening where we learn about the background of Tony. He's presented as a friend of his father, and then sort of kind of like an uncle figure.
Man,
to Tony.
that montage of photos from like magazine covers is very telling. It has like Obadiah standing over the giant. He's giant and the world is small, and then it has him with Tony, and then Tony's out in front and he's in the background.
Yeah,
like he's been relegated back.
Yep. So now at this point, the suspicion level goes up to like 11 because Tony is, I forget where he's at, but a reporter shows him pictures of Jensen's home village all blown up with and terrorist cells with Stark weapons. Like how are they getting these Stark weapons?
Deals under the table, shady.
Right. So Tony Stark does what everyone would want to do. He puts on his suit, he flies to that village, and he just like destroys the terrorists.
See, now, was he flying faster than 1,000 miles an hour? How long did it take him to get there?
I don't think it took him very long.
It did not seem to take him very long.
He doesn't seem to be able to go faster than those F-22s that were shooting at him. So, but I mean, they can go faster than 1,000 miles an hour, right?
I'm gonna have to assume.
I don't know. Someone can SCHP Twitter do F-22 Raptors go faster than 1,000 miles an hour?
It's Mach 1.82, whatever that is.
I don't know what that is.
Wait, you don't have a converter? 619 meters a second? That doesn't help me at all.
Mach 1.
I'm working through too many different conversions to try and get to where I want to be.
Per hour. Here, wait. It's 1,385 miles per hour. So yes, they can go, but not much faster.
Oh, so it's not that okay. So 1,000 miles an hour is pretty fast. It sounds like.
It's pretty fast, but still, you know.
Fast enough to strip all the skin off of your body. So how is that? Never mind. I'm not gonna.
Anyway, as we've been mentioning, he gets shot at by Raptors deployed by the United States, and he makes a cell phone call to.
I think that's probably one of my favorite gags through that first movie.
Well, no. Rhodes calls him.
And he's like, "Do you have any tech in the area? Do you know anything that's up?" Of course not. I'm running in the hills or something.
He's like, "Yeah, I'm out running." And then he's like, "Yeah, you're shooting at me. Please don't shoot at me."
It's me. It's me. It literally, it's me. Stop shooting at me.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm gonna start getting the timeline all messed up. But they've Pepper Potts, his loyal assistant, and he have become suspicious of Obadiah, and she tries to hack into his computer.
Yeah, obviously the ghost drive backs up all the encrypted materials or something. Didn't you catch all that?
Yeah, I did not. And she that I don't know. That was an unusual bit of blocking. She's sitting at his desk and files are copying, and she just puts a folder over her little jump drive, and he doesn't really. He's obviously suspicious, but until he sits down at his computer and checks it out, he's not why didn't he just immediately be go get her?
Yeah. He could have been a little more aggressive.
I think so.
I guess he was just in case she wasn't suspicious. It would be better that she just got away safely and he didn't raise any eyebrows yet.
Right. So I think this is when we get introduced to Agent Coulson has repeatedly been trying to get in touch with Tony Stark or Pepper Potts, and she goes to him and is like, "Hey, Obadiah."
He's like, "We had an appointment," and she's like, "It's right now. It's right now. Let's go."
Let's go. He's there at Stark Enterprises, and it's like we're doing this. Things are going down. So at this point, what goes down now?
Obadiah goes to Tony's and takes his power from his chest and paralyzes him. And she is on her way she figured out where the secret lab is, and she's on her way with Coulson and the agents.
Right. Yes. So he has to in his shop he had made a new, better arc reactor, but he still has the old one that Potts gave to him.
Yeah, he said to destroy it, and she framed it and put a plaque on it that says "Proof that Tony Stark has a heart."
Aww. So he ends up using that, and Obadiah, in the meantime, his Afghani, terrorist cell has been working on a big suit, a big bad suit, and he powers it with Tony's awesome arc reactor, and then they fight, and whatever. A lot of stuff happens. Guess how that goes. Tony just barely makes it, and then he has a clever idea that he learned about earlier in the
his first trial run.
In his first trial run, that the suits have a problem with de-icing when they get too far up in the atmosphere, and that is where Obadiah he flew a little too close to the sun, and he's all dead at the end.
He recovers from that, and then Pepper has to blow something up, and there's a little bit of teamwork after that.
So
one more final explosion.
One final reactor or something explodes.
It was a button combination that you had to do, a quick event.
Yeah, a quick time event. Yeah, they blow up the old timey arc reactor, and then one of the best movie endings ever. Not ever, but I really like the ending of the movie.
I completely did not expect it to end the way it did. Not in a million years.
Just like, oh, of course. Do you really expect us to believe that that was a bodyguard or whatever? And he's like, look, blah 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 blah, and then that. But the truth is, I am Iron Man.
You see it all in his face. You see him working it out, and he's like, I'm just gonna take credit for this. I am Iron Man.
Yep, he's Iron Man. And then the post credit scene. Do all of these movies have a post credit scene? Thor had one.
Thor, I'm almost certain has one, but I couldn't tell you what it is. Oh, yes, it does, and now I remember what it is. Yep.
Okay. So the post credit scene is Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury.
Nick Fury, his first appearance as Nick Fury. One of something like 8 or 9 appearances.
Holy moly.
Yep.
Well, he's letting him know about something called the Avenger Initiative.
Which later we'll find out Tony's dad was part of the initial startup of it.
Yes, we find that out in Iron Man 2, which we also watched. I actually watched just a few hours ago.
I watched it over my clone's shoulders.
Yes,
last night.
I saw them live tweeting that. So I'm just gonna say I really like Don Cheadle as an actor.
Yeah.
But I preferred Terrence Howard.
I think I prefer Terrence Howard as well. I'm fine with Don Cheadle.
Okay.
I really like Terrence Howard.
I liked him a lot. Like when he has a little throwaway line towards the end of Iron Man, he looks at one of the older suits, the silver one, and like he kind of goes toward it, and he's like, maybe next time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
And he did, but it wasn't him.
But it wasn't him. It wasn't him.
It was him, but it wasn't him.
Right. Well, whatever. So
it was a
Iron
stupid
Man...
contract negotiation thing. He was the first person signed on to Iron Man 2. The first person. And when Iron Man did so well, he tried to renegotiate. They said, you either stay with what you have or you get GTFO. And he GTFO'd.
Well, blah. That's what I have to say about that. So what, like, any general thoughts about Iron Man?
I think it is one of the, it is probably the best, my favorite origin story for any comic book character I've ever seen on film.
Yeah, I'll withhold my judgment for the next 4 superheroes, but because I haven't seen them, but I love it, and it's probably my favorite superhero quotation marks around it franchise.
Yeah, I think somehow Jon Favreau, who seemingly came out of nowhere with the action genre, he really got it right.
If I can fault him one thing and one thing only, and I think he's worse. I think it happened more in Iron Man 2 than in Iron Man. Is him or like someone on his team is just obsessed with Windows smashing. That happens a lot.
There is a lot of glass destruction.
There is so much glass that gets broken in. I didn't start thinking about it until Iron Man 2, so it might have been just as bad in Iron Man, but certainly in Iron Man 2, like all the time, glass is getting broken. And a lot of times glass gets, like several times in Iron Man 2, glass gets broken on top of a lot of people, and I'm like, they're all gonna get cut, but they don't, like, it's like, no, they were fine. The glass must have been really, really fine. It was like sand by the time.
It was vaporized.
They did that trick from Harry Potter. You know, they transformed the glass into sand or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
speaking of superheroes, Harry Potter.
Speaking of Harry Potter, let's talk about the Lego game for Harry Potter. Let's talk about Iron Man 2. So, does it start out? It does. It starts out with Ivan's dad dying, right?
Yes. It gives us the setup of Whiplash.
Yes. Whiplash, Ivan Vanko We get opened in a very like it's a dark, house in Russia, all beaten down, and uh, this Mickey Rourke's dad passes away, and I think in the background, it is Tony Stark announcing that he's Iron Man, and
Right.
that like sets off Ivan. We don't know why, but then I think either then or yeah, during the credits, he has his own science montage of him making a miniature arc reactor.
They wanted to retread some old ground.
Right. So he's upset probably with Tony Stark for some reason, and he knows how to make an arc reactor, which nobody knows how to make. So that's something to note, I would say, as someone watching this movie. We're probably gonna see the consequences of that.
And Tony's spending his time re-establishing the Stark Expo, which is an obvious allusion to the World Expo, which does not exist anymore.
There hasn't been a world fair or World Expo that I'm aware of in the United States at least since the 60s.
The place where he's having the Stark Expo is where I know there was a World's Fair in 1964 because my dad actually went to it.
Well, that place where they're having it is also where Men in Black ended.
Right. The two movie reel things are UFOs in
yeah.
Men in Black.
Yeah, it's Flushing Meadows in Queens.
Yep.
So yeah, he's opening. And do World's Fairs last a whole year?
Yes, that one did in 1964. I know.
I didn't know that.
And there was
yes.
one in San Francisco that I know also lasted a year. And that location has been turned into a museum. I was there.
Fascinating. I didn't know that either. Maybe there's a book about this we'll recommend to everyone next time. So yeah, he reestablishes the Stark Expo, and we get to see Tony's father, Howard, who obviously was going to be played by what's his name, who I love.
I'll let Roger Sterling.
Roger Sterling. It's like if you want to have a period thing, you got to have Roger Sterling in it, right? Roger Sterling, John Slattery.
John Slattery. Roger Sterling is the character he plays from Mad Men, for you uninitiated.
Oh, man, he's one of my favorite characters in Mad Men, and I just love watching him. He's great.
He is perfect casting as Howard Stark.
Yes. Well, and also recently, and he just is a period actor. The only other thing I've seen him in very recently was the Replacement Agency, which took place in modern day, but his agency was made up of people who basically were taken out of the 50s. Wearing hats and thin ties.
He's just comfortable there.
Yeah. So while all this is going on, we get introduced to Gary Shandling's character. One of the clones tweeted about this. Hayden is in.
Yes,
in
she
Iron
shows
Man
up
2.
to hand a subpoena to Tony.
That Hayden. So yeah, he has to testify before Congress, and they want his suit bad.
Because they think it is a weapon. It must belong to the American people. It should be studied. It should be replicated.
Right. So.
And he says, "My IP."
Yeah, exactly.
This seems like a fundamental argument.
Yeah. Well, and he's also arguing that it's not a weapon. That it's
It's a prosthesis.
It's a prosthesis, as he says. That it's it's that Iron Man is sort of more than the sum of its parts, but that the parts are so that just the parts themselves are his IP and his stuff that he owns, but that the thing that they become when he's inside of the suit is Iron Man, and that's like himself. That's his person. Like you can't like turn him into he's an indentured servant.
I get that. I can understand that argument.
Yeah.
He is quite an a-hole about it, but I get it.
Yeah, like he keeps turning back to look at Pepper Potts and the people in the hearing room, and
he clearly has the audience wrapped around his little finger.
Gary Shandling tries to get his attention. He goes, "Yes, dear."
Yeah, having that part played by basically someone who's a comedian was perfect.
Yeah, it's great. And then we also get introduced to our other main enemy, Justin Hammer.
A little bit more of a chameleon, Justin Hammer.
Played pitch perfectly by Sam Rockwell, if I might add. I really enjoyed his performance in this movie, and I hope he's the main enemy in Iron Man 3.
He's not.
Damn it. Is he in Iron Man 3?
I hope so, but I don't think he'll be the big bad.
Well, maybe he won't be the big bad.
There were fans who were I don't know if they're upset, but they wanted to point out that Justin Hammer was completely changed for the movies. Justin Hammer was an old guy. He had been around forever. He had been behind tons and tons of attacks for like various other bad guys, not only for Iron Man but for other Marvel characters as well. And in this, he's a young defense contractor.
Well, yeah, he's a better foil, I think.
Oh, I think he's great.
Tony, and we already had that whole old versus young conflict with Obadiah.
Yeah,
that was played out. So I'm fine with that. So yeah, he gets to be a jerk in front of Congress, and then Tony says like this technology is decades away from anyone else having it. There's no reason to worry about it. You know, I'm the only one in the world who knows how to make this. And then he like hacks into the TVs to show like North Koreans and Iranians and Justin Hammer's group all failing at making these types of suits.
Right.
Which was fun. We also find out towards the beginning that Tony Stark is dying.
He's poisoned by the arc reactor in his body.
Yes. So he's slowly being poisoned. He's drinking some sort of green concoction chlorophyll that he mentions that he and Jarvis came up with. Oh, by the way, do you think that Jarvis and Siri have got something going on the side?
I'd have to assume so.
Yeah, I like Jarvis. He's Paul Bettany plays him, and he's a good voice for a personal assistant. Just enough Britishy, snarky, you know.
Yeah, perfect delivery. Jarvis was a real character in the books that I think was basically the same character, just a kind of snarky British butler.
Yeah, having him be a computer program or computer system was smart. I like that.
Yes, I do so.
So we also get we get introduced to / things occur with Pepper Potts. Before, like, basically all this stuff happens before the stuff in Monaco. That's where like things go down. But I think this is the last big important thing is that Pepper Potts becomes the CEO, and we get introduced to Scarlett Johansson.
Natalie Rushman.
Mm-hmm. She's someone in legal, but who is able to just like take Jon Favreau to the floor in a boxing ring.
And I think we've been shown already that Tony has the ability to see through people, and he's very smart at picking up what people are, what they're like, and how to read them and respond to them. And as soon as he meets her, he cannot read her.
Yeah. He basically like Facebooks her. And,
she is an enigma to him.
Right. She speaks Latin? Who speaks Latin? And then there's a great scene between him and Gwyneth. Like, he's like, nobody speaks Latin, Tony. It's a dead language. You can read Latin. You can write Latin. So Tony Stark goes to this big like Grand Prix in Monaco, and that's where like things go down because Ivan has somehow gotten a ticket, and he's in like a pit crew for one of the racers. And Tony, being Tony, decides, I'm going to go race in the Grand Prix.
He decided he wanted to do something else stupid today.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think he says, you know, it's like, well, I have a fast car if you don't race it. So he goes out, having a jolly good time on the race, and Ivan is waiting for him with. He did not rip off Tony's suit. He made his own little creation, which is like it's kind of like an exoskeleton thing that connects to whips.
He's got the power source, but he's using it for basically all offense.
Right. He has these power whips that can just like slash through metal, which is what he does to Tony's car.
They're like lightsabers.
They are like lightsabers. Like I think they had like a Bentley that they were tooling around in, and they have a whole bunch of shots of just like whipping through the door, like slicing through the doors, slicing through the roof.
Like so much warm butter.
Like so much warm butter. And Gwyneth Paltrow just like freaking out. Freaking
Her
out.
screaming during that sequence is hysterical.
It's just yeah. And so
She
Jon
so
Favreau,
clearly just wants to run a company.
yeah, oh so
None of
clearly.
this superhero bullcrap.
And then Tony is like shouting at them. Jon Favreau just keeps backing up and slamming their car into Whiplash, who is like
It's his
totally not
only
fazed
move.
by
It's
it.
all he's got.
But he keeps doing it. So Tony's trying to get a portable version of his suit from Pepper, and she can't get it to him. So eventually he gets the suit on, and he battles Whiplash to, you know, to defeat and destroys his arc reactor. Right? That's a very anticlimactic, I would say, and sort of confusing. We're sort of in the middle of the movie. Like we think this is like, hey, this is the bad guy. What's going on? How did he get defeated so easily? And he talks with Tony for like 5 minutes, and I think he reveals at that point. Well, he doesn't say. Does he? I don't think he says specifically that Anton and Howard work together, but like he says like my
He
father is
says
the reason
that
why
you
you're
are
alive.
from a family of thieves.
Yeah, thieves and murderers. And he is claiming victory, which confuses Tony, and he has something. He says something along the lines of, you know, if the people see a god bleed, they'll no longer believe, they won't believe in him anymore, which is what he feels like he did there.
Yeah, his goal was not to defeat Tony Stark, just to show that he was susceptible to danger still.
Right. So that almost certainly strikes a chord with Tony, as he knows he's slowly dying.
Yeah, and apparently so does Anton, because as he's leaving the room, Anton says, palladium poison is an awful way to die, isn't it?"
Yeah. So he knows what's up. And subsequently, Ivan gets broken out of that French prison by Justin Hammer. And that is where our actual big conflict is going to go down. We've got our evil defense contractor and our brilliant Russian bird aficionado together on one side. At least he cares a lot about one bird, I guess.
One board.
Yes. So he's working on all this stuff. Tony is just losing it. And this is the part of the movie where I'm like, don't you remember Jensen? You know, I know you're dying, but don't waste it. Why are you wasting it? Like,
yeah, it's been 6 months, and I think that's probably the appropriate amount of time for someone to start becoming disillusioned with their newfound power.
Yeah, well, he's really bad. He just gets like stupid drunk in his suit with a big. It's like he's having a big birthday party. He doesn't show up to his actual birthday thing where Pepper is. He is making a total fool of himself. Pepper tries to get him to leave. She can't. So Rhodes, he puts on a suit and fights Tony,
and pretty much wins.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of my favorite parts of the movie. The music was perfectly chosen, and it was a great action sequence. And then Tony ends up the next morning sitting like eating a donut in the middle of a donut.
I think that place, whatever that place is, worked its way into at least one of the Grand Theft Auto games. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing that thing in a video game experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, that's another thing is there's a lot of California, a lot of Southern California in the Iron Man movies, which I think is interesting because if you look at, like, the DC movies that we're seeing, they're all New York.
Yeah. They always look like they're
New York, or, you know, they look like New York.
Yeah.
They're not, you know, Malibu. So Nick Fury gathers him up and sits him down, gets him sober, gets him a coffee at a diner, reveals that Scarlett Johansson is actually a SHIELD agent. And they basically say,
something that finally makes sense.
Right, finally. They sit him down and say, hey, your father was on to a huge breakthrough. We're going to treat you for your palladium illness. It won't cure you, but we're going to lock you up in your house, and you need to figure out, like, what's going on.
Figure out whatever your dad wasn't able to.
Yes, exactly. Like, you know, your dad was onto something. You know, Nick, you know, Tony says, like, it sounds like you knew my father better than I did, and he's like, I did.
Yeah, like we hung out, man.
And it's like, yeah, he was a founding member of Shield. So this while this is going on, I think we go back and forth between Tony and Ivan. Ivan is like, he's kind of a buffoon a little bit.
Or
Like
at
he
least
just
he
like
seems that way.
right, he's clearly brilliant, but he like rips the heads off of the suits that Justin had put together and just like tosses things around and casually hacks into their computers and wants his bird. And it's just he's a very unusual fellow.
Basically, what I thought of his internment there was that we were getting to see him going through the exact same thing that Tony went through in the first movie in the cave in Afghanistan, except he was in a giant, awesome cave of technological wonder, and he was asked to do something as well that he also did not do. And then he broke out.
Yeah, exactly. He we're not too different, you and I.
Yeah.
Except they didn't. Did they use? They didn't actually use that.
No,
line,
they never
right?
said that. Thank goodness.
Good. Whenever anyone uses that line, I'm just like, okay, I'm turning this movie off.
Unless it's Austin Powers.
Unless it's Austin Powers. So while that's going on, Tony has renewed interest in life and his work after seeing a video of his father. Nick Fury drops off like, here's all your father's stuff. Like, go through it, figure something out. And there's like B-roll of Howard, and he recorded a message for Tony, basically saying like, he basically says like, I was onto something, but the technology of my time is not up to making it. You have to finish my work. I believe in you. I love you. The things he never could say to him, like to his face when he was a kid.
It's just tugging at the heartstrings.
Just hugging. So what he realizes after he goes to see Pepper and brings her strawberries, and that's the one thing that she's allergic to. To which Tony's like, well, don't you see there's progress
I knew
here?
there was a connection.
Yeah, there was yeah, come on. But she's still not amused, and she's like, get out. He sees the scale model of the 1970s or 60s Stark Expo, and he starts like his Spidey senses tingling, his Iron Man senses tingling. Like something is up with this.
I liked this little device because I did not see it coming even when it was shoved in my face.
Yeah.
Right until the part where he finally brings it up in his little computer hologram thing. It wasn't until then that I finally got it. And by that point, if you didn't get it, you weren't going to get it.
Right, exactly. Now, yeah, I like the fact that the secret was encoded in the structure of the expo, but I think that the secret was some sort of synthetic element is laughably wrong.
Because he couldn't have tried any of those before? He couldn't have figured that out?
Yeah, or no, just the Howard Stark like figured out some new element that can be synthesized by laser beams apparently
in a guy's basement.
And it's like it's like it has to be a super heavy element if we haven't discovered yet, or like something weird's going on there, and yet it's somehow stable in I don't know.
It's
whatever.
Probably the biggest you have to not think about it point of the movie.
Right, just don't think about it.
Just don't think about it.
And I think in one of the Wikipedias I read about when I was doing research on this, there's speculation that it's the same compound or material that makes up Captain America's shield.
Which is why it was all the funnier that he used that for a prop.
Right, exactly. Which is, I think that joke makes me think that then that's probably correct.
Okay.
But I have no idea, and I don't know anything about Captain
Agent Coulson's like, do you know what this is? Why do you have this?
Right. Well, and then that's a question I have. Like, we're actually kind of getting to the wrap up of Iron Man 2, and I have like questions that hopefully will get answered. So we're like there. Like all of the pieces are in play. Tony has this new thing to power his suit. He's fine.
It's arbitrarily a triangle instead of a circle.
Right. Whatever. It doesn't matter. And then we know that Justin is unveiling his new technology. I kind of don't like how they call everything tech, but what it sort of sounds like, whatever. He's unveiling his tech at the Stark Expo, and it's all the drones. and
Make salute.
make salute, but they're going to do a lot more than make salute. Tony knows that something's up. He goes there, and that is Ivan's chance, and he deploys his drones to destroy Iron Man.
And he deploys Rhodey against his will in
know,
his new Justin Hammerized suit.
Right, which has like, you know, a chain gun on it and rockets and all sorts of stuff.
That's why he gets to be the War Machine.
Exactly, he's a War Machine. And then they get to bond over, Tony being right and, like, oh, we're friends. In betwixt all of the glass breaking and explosions happening.
That fight sequence lasts about 15 minutes because it's so split up by other things. I think that whole sequence is amazing.
Yeah,
it does a good job of keeping the story moving. It does a good job of every so often there's humor in it, like when they fly over the car. They fly over the cars and one alarm goes off, and then the drones fly over them and they all go off. It's just really well edited.
Yeah, and at the same time, Scarlett Johansson and Jon Favreau, I know they have character names.
Black Widow and Happy.
Right. They are going to Hammer Industries to shut down Ivan and all this. And Scarlett Johansson, oh my God. So she has an epic hallway takedown of all the guards. Like that happens in every movie. Hers is just great. I loved it.
It is very well done.
Is very well done. My favorite part is after everything she does, she has like the final guard. She's just got some mace, and he comes up to her, and she just boom maces him. He's like, ah!
And I think that guy probably made it off easy.
Right, exactly. And the whole time that's going on, Jon Favreau is fighting one
single guy.
And he uses some dirty boxing moves that he criticizes Tony about to finish it off. And he's like, I got him. And then he looks at the hallway and there's just like bodies everywhere.
I really like Happy's extended role in the second film.
Yeah. He
gets to be funnier, and he gets to have a little bit more character.
He gets to do more. He gets to have fun. So yeah, the fight sequence goes on for a long time. Most of the drones get destroyed either by accident or Tony does a little move through that globe thing. A whole bunch of them get destroyed.
Yeah, that was pretty nice.
That was pretty cool. And then Scarlett notes that when she finally gets to the sort of nerve center of Hammer Industries, that Ivan isn't there. And then she like reboots Rhodey's suit, and we're like, oh boy, what's gonna happen? So Tony and Rhodey have an awesome takedown of the rest of the drones. Apparently Tony has lasers now.
But for some reason he only gets to use them once.
So they like take all of them down, and we're like, hey, we're done.
We're in the clear.
Right? We're done. We took out all the drones. And then Scarlett's like, there's one more drone. And it's not like the others.
And also, I don't know where Ivan is.
And by the way, Ivan isn't here. Okay, thanks, bye. So Ivan shows up, and like he's got much bigger whips in this big suit. They're much bigger.
Oh yeah. They showed him rebuilding or building new ones.
They're much bigger, thicker, substantial. And he's got both Tony and Rhodey in like the sleeper hold with his whips, and like they cannot get out. There's no way they're going to be able to get out of this situation. But Tony has like the brilliant idea,
this thing that happened when they were fighting kind of by accident before.
Right. Apparently, if you cross,
don't cross the streams.
Don't cross the streams. If you cross Iron Man streams, like badness ensues, and you get a big explosion. And they do that, and that's it. Boom, he's done. Out for the count.
Yeah, they didn't draw out the final Whiplash encounter, which is fine with me.
We had a lot of like action up to that point.
Yeah,
like,
this was just the final step.
Yeah, it would have been too much. Too much.
But he's still somewhat convinced that he won here.
Right, because all the drones are set to detonate. I guess like if he dies or something, maybe he has a button. I don't know. So that's okay. Iron Man, his suit, him and Rhodey can get out of there, but Pepper decided to stay
She
on the
wanted to
ground.
make sure she was doing the good CEO and making sure she stuck around till everyone was safe.
Yes, so
Look at her.
oh, look at her.
She's
So
perfect.
she is. So Tony gets to do the superhero move, fly in, rescue her, and then go up on a roof and
Make out.
get a little makeout session with Gwyneth. So they're probably not gonna do this whole what you said that her and Jon Favreau were supposed to get happy or supposed to get
Yeah,
together?
yeah. In the main storyline of Iron Man for like decades, it really was that Pepper and Happy were together.
Fascinating. Well,
Like when
after
Pepper started at the company, she was infatuated with Tony and Iron Man separately. She didn't know they were the same person. So that was destroyed in the movies because she was one of the very first people to know. And she winds up settling for Happy, and then they all had, for some reason it sounded like they lived the lives of soap opera characters. Like they had problems getting pregnant, she miscarried, it just seemed really weird, and I was like, I'm glad they didn't do that in the movies.
yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, so she and Tony are together. They realize that they are probably in love, and Pepper quits as CEO. And then we get a debrief with Nick Fury, and we got a little after action report from Scarlett Johansson that Iron Man is suitable for the Avenger initiative, but Tony Stark is not.
That just supports his argument that Iron Man is an entity, not a
Yeah,
not a suit.
yeah. So he agrees to be a consultant, I guess. That's what Nick
You
says.
can't afford me.
You can't afford me. He agrees to do it if he he's getting a medal. Him and Rhodey are getting a medal in Washington, and he says he'll agree, but only if Nick Fury can arrange a special um, MC or a special host, which is none other than Gary Shandling from the beginning of the movie, who gets an awesome little bit of business that when he pins on Tony's pin, he sticks him, and then he's got a great line, which is probably inappropriate for the podcast.
But hopefully you have already seen it.
Yes. And then you alluded to this earlier. The post-credit scene in this one is a link to Thor.
Yeah, Agent Coulson rolls up on Mjolnir sitting out there in the New Mexico desert.
That's the hammer, right?
Yep.
All right.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Yeah. So what are we doing next?
I don't
Is
know.
there a
Our
logical next one?
options. I don't. I
The
don't.
Hulk came after Iron Man 1, right?
Let's find out. And yeah, I definitely completely mixed up the movies in both of the instances of me talking about it on the podcast and in my vlog. I mixed up. We are actually watching the one with Ed Norton.
Yes.
I had it backwards for some reason. It says this takes place. I don't know.
It came out a month after Iron Man.
Yes, it did. That is
It
correct.
came out in June, and Iron Man came out in May in 2008. So we can. I think we should probably do those three in chronological order since they're sort of meant to kind of be seen that way.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it'll be Incredible Hulk, Thor, then Captain America. Is that the way it went?
Yeah, and Captain America really, I don't think matters because it's so far out of the chronology anyway.
Right. How does that? Is he just like he lives forever?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Actually,
Okay.
Nick Fury does too.
Okay.
Nick Fury is like sometimes they retcon. Like Iron Man, he's not old. He has not actually been through all the wars that his character has been through. Now, as of now, he's only been through his origin story is the Afghanistan conflict. Nick Fury has been through World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Like he is that old.
Okay.
He has some kind of regenerative serum that he is actually so stocked up on that he does not need to take it anymore in order to not age.
Really, like, is this?
I
From a
learned this
movie?
last night because I said, like, who should play Nick Fury as the young Nick Fury? And someone was like, Nick Fury doesn't age. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I looked it up. And they're right. Nick Fury does not age. He's not aged since the 1940s.
Well, that's one way to do it.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if that is exactly what Captain America is, if that's how he gets from the past to the future, or if he just wakes up here somehow. That's possible too, because they're gonna get away with that for. They got away with that for Thor. He just woke up here. I won't give away how.
All right, all right. Hopefully Joss Whedon has some creative way of getting all this together that doesn't suck.
This might be minor spoiler for the Avengers, so if you don't want to know, tune out. But Joss Whedon has confirmed that the story will be told from the perspective of Captain America.
I think you mentioned, or somewhere I saw that it would be told from the point of view of one character.
Yep.
And I didn't know which one it would be, but I knew immediately that it would not be Tony Stark.
He said that Captain America is the de facto leader, and he should, if there's an Avengers story to tell, he should remain the central character, and he said he definitely does.
All right, well, hopefully...
so we should save that for last, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and hopefully everyone ends up liking Captain America.
Joss Whedon even wrote some of the script, did some work on the script for Captain America, probably to just strengthen the ties between the two films.
Interesting. Before we break, because this has turned into an extra long podcast, even though we lost 40 minutes.
Oh my god! This could have been the longest one of all time.
This would have broken our. We've never broken 2 hours before, have we?
No, nope.
I will say that the thing that all these like tie-ins remind me of is the end of Jason Goes to Hell. Did you ever see that, or do you know?
No, I never made it that far.
At the end of that, Jason Goes to Hell, right? And his mask, at the end of the movie, the very final scene, he dies, and his mask is sitting on some dirt, and the camera just sort of is looking at it, and it pans in very slowly, and after a couple seconds, you see Freddy's glove come up and pull the mask down, which they then paid off like 15 years later with Freddy vs. Jason, which had been in development hell forever.
Right.
So
yeah, I'll get a little bit further in my horror genre crossovers sometime.
Yeah. So yeah, homework next week. Go see The Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton.
Incredible Hulk, 2008 film with Ed Norton, directed by the guy who directed what was it? Transporter. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that.
All right.
Cool, man.